Every official map of unexplained aerial sightings looks strangely like a map of the American Navy. The dots pile up on coastlines, over naval training ranges, and around weapons testing grounds. Very few of them land in the middle of Kansas, or the Sahara, or the empty heart of the Pacific. The obvious reading is that something out there finds our military fascinating. Guess what the Pentagon's own analysts say about that shape? They say the shape may be describing our sensors instead of describing the sky. A 2021 intelligence assessment warned the clustering could come from collection bias. The map may be a portrait of American radar coverage wearing a costume. 144 sightings went into the first American intelligence report in over 50 years. The analysts managed to explain exactly one of them. That one was a large balloon slowly deflating. The other 143 stayed open, mostly because the data was too thin to close. Guess how many of those cases were caught by more than one kind of sensor at the same time? 80. Radar and infrared, cameras and eyeballs, at least two of them agreeing in the same moment. 18 of the incidents involved movement the observers could match to no aircraft they knew. Buried in that same document was a sentence almost nobody quoted. The buried sentence admitted that sightings cluster around American training and testing grounds.
Then it named the reason that might be meaningless: focused attention and newer sensors in those areas. Crews in those zones also work under standing orders to report anything strange they see. Stack those three things together and you have built a machine that manufactures sightings in one place. Guess what a thing that is everywhere looks like when the cameras all sit in one corner? It looks like a thing that lives in that corner, and the blank map elsewhere looks like proof. A fisherman with one net dropped in one bay will conclude that all fish live in that bay. The fish had no opinion. The net did. Fighter pilots off the American East Coast began seeing strange objects almost daily in 2014. One of them, a Navy lieutenant named Ryan Graves, kept seeing them for roughly 2 years. His squadron had received something new shortly before the sighting started. Guess what the new thing was? A radar upgrade. Their aircraft had been fitted with a far more sensitive scanning system. Graves has said his first assumption was that the fancy new radar carried a software bug. Then the crews locked onto the targets, swung an infrared camera across, and something warm was there. Whatever those objects were, the order of events is brutal. Better eyes first, sightings second. Sensors are only half of a sighting. A human being still has to be willing to file the paperwork. For decades, an American military pilot who reported a UFO was volunteering for a ruined career.
In 2019, the Navy formalized the reporting process deliberately to strip away the shame. Guess what happened to the count of reports after that? It jumped. 291 reports in the 2023 accounting year, about 750 the next year, then 319 the year after. The office keeping these files now holds more than 1,800 cases in total. Nobody can say whether the sky got busier. We can only say the reporting got easier. 1940s, Columbia University. A secret group of mathematicians is handed a war problem. American bombers were limping home from Europe, torn open by anti-aircraft fire and enemy fighters. Officers mapped every bullet hole on every returning aircraft: wings, fuselage, tail. Armor is heavy, so they wanted to reinforce only the areas taking the most damage. Guess where a statistician named Abraham Wald told them to bolt the armor instead? On the clean spots, the engines, the cockpit. Planes hit in the engine never came home to be measured, so those holes were missing from the chart. The chart was a record of survivable damage, and every officer had read it as a record of danger. A cheap ultrasound scan of the neck reached South Korean checkups at the end of the 1990s. Clinics offered it for pocket money, bolted onto cancer screenings the government already paid for. Thyroid cancer diagnoses began to climb and keep climbing for 2 decades. Guess how much higher the diagnosis rate stood by 2011 compared with 1993? 15 times higher, a national emergency on paper. Doctors published that finding in the New England Journal of Medicine with the number that mattered. Deaths from thyroid cancer across those same 20 years stayed flat. The country had discovered a sea of tiny tumors that had always been there, quietly harming nobody. 3 stories, 1 shape. The bombers, the thyroid scans, and the objects over the naval ranges. In each case, the data was honest, and the reading of it was wrong. The bullet holes were real, the tumors were real, the radar returns were real. What broke was the quiet assumption that our looking had covered the whole world evenly. Guess what the blank areas of any map actually record? They record where you were standing and where you had no way to look. A thing that is everywhere and a thing that only hugs warships will draw the very same map. The difference between those 2 worlds stays invisible as long as the warships hold all the cameras. Your business runs on exactly this kind of map, and probably nobody has ever audited it. Customer surveys reach the customers who stayed. The ones who left deleted the email. Reviews arrive from the delighted and the furious, while the merely satisfied say nothing at all. Guess which employees answer the anonymous culture survey most honestly? The ones who plan to stay. The ones already walking out the door skip it entirely. Before trusting any number, ask one question: who had to be present for this number to exist? Every data set is a map of where you placed your instruments rather than a map of what is real. The sky may be full of secrets or empty. Either way, we have only ever photographed our own coastline.